Good show. So that was a fun show. You guys.
Hello.
Hey.
Hop in.
Pro owner Logan.
Oh, hey. We love it. Thank you.
Come on in. Come on in.
He did great.
There you go.
So I filmed a wedding. I couldn't miss the show. Was it good?
Oh, it was amazing.
Great.
It was amazing.
It was his first time.
Actually,
yeah.
here.
Yeah, we finally got him here.
Finally got me here.
And now
Yeah.
next month and the next
That's
month.
right.
That's right.
Our tickets are already bought. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
we're set.
100%. We love it.
Thank you guys for all you're doing. I love the pre-shows. We're gonna talk soon.
Okay.
Oh,
love it.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 4.5 Marks. I am very, very excited. It's been over a year of kind of planning and talking and thinking about getting this done, but I have a very special guest. I got the other wonderful owner of Magnum Pro Wrestling, Logan.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's solo right now.
It is.
It's very sad, but
It's still new that it hasn't processed to me that you are now the sole owner of Magnum Wrestling.
Same, absolute same. But we can talk about that later. I just want to say hello, and I am excited to be here. We talked last year. We were just talking before this.
Yeah.
I said, hey, we're gonna talk.
Yeah, it was right after. I'm trying to remember the show, but I know it wasn't Summer Sizzler. I think it was the show after that.
Okay.
So it was either way. It was a little over a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
But now we got you.
Now we're here.
Finally, and so I'm very excited. And I'm kind of glad we waited because I got to know you a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I got to know a little bit more things about you, and I'm very excited to talk about that. And we are a wrestling podcast, but that doesn't mean that we don't have other interests.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk about something that I've gotten more into over the last few years that you are a big fan of, and that is horror movies.
Yeah. I will say I appreciate this was sitting at the table. I just bought one myself too, but just seeing this on the table too, and I was like, that's really cool. Nice decorations.
Yes.
You know the crowd.
Yes, I tried. One of my first Halloween costumes that I ever got to choose was actually that. And
Yeah.
I got red paint. I splattered red paint all over his face because I thought it looked scary.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do that. Fortunately, you remember the mask? I think they're making a comeback where you had a little bulb, then you squeezed it and it just juiced everywhere.
Yep.
Those were fun. That was when you had the rich parents, apparently. So,
I don't, because I remember I didn't have a Ghostface one, but I did have one of those style masks.
yeah.
Yeah. If you got it early, then it would dry out. So
Yep.
you had to buy it right around Halloween.
Yep.
So, but horror movies,
Mhm.
you're a big fan. You, if I remember correctly, you've been to HorrorCon. And
No,
like that?
surprisingly, I haven't been to any HorrorCon. So the last one, the one that was closest to us, there was one in Des Moines, and I'm very sad I couldn't go to it. It was the weekend of Over the Top. Other stuff going on, and it wasn't in the cards. And I mean, the lineup was incredible. There's a
Right.
lot of I don't know what kind of horror you've been watching, but a lot of different icons in the industry. More recently, David Howard Thurton was there, and Damien Leone of the Terrifier
Yep.
fame. But I have made it a pact if I know about it way ahead, and it's definitely worth the drive. I mean, I've driven to Florida multiple times, so anything's worth a drive. But the voice of Chucky,
Yeah.
Brad Dourif. I know they've kind of that small little crowd. The can't think of her name. She plays Kyle on Chucky 2, Child's Play 2. So yeah, if I ever see a con where they're on there, I'm like, okay, we're going. See, I found out too late this year.
Okay.
But next time I gotta get that autograph. I got way too much Chucky memorabilia. So
Yeah, I remember seeing recently that you just got a new Chucky doll.
yep.
So that's cool. Funny story about Chucky. So what I have two older sisters.
Mhm.
They're all quite older than me. The closest one in age to me is about 8 years apart. And she wasn't supposed to be watching a Chucky movie, and she was. And she used to have a Chucky doll. She threw it away because she was really scared. Well, me being I think 4 or 5, I didn't like sleeping in my own room. So I at night sometimes I would go into her bed and just sleep next to her. And well, she thought it was the Chucky doll coming
my
back from the
gosh.
trash because it was mad that it got thrown away. So she was very terrified that night, and that she always tells me about that. She always like complains that it's my fault that she's afraid of like Chucky now.
Yeah.
And
Well
it's like,
played.
yeah,
Well played.
yeah. I mean, I guess it's not my fault you threw away the doll. You shouldn't have been watching the movie.
Yeah. So like it's like the Chuckies, the Scream. You know, a lot of people don't like these movies. And I could definitely see why, but I did talk about the Terrifier series. Not for the weak at heart. I don't know what it is, and it's not necessarily the gore that gets me in those films. Like, that makes it's the practical gore is really cool, but like it really has like an '80s vibe to it too,
Sure.
which honestly, like I love '80s horror films, so that really drove the interest because I was kind of like I didn't watch it when it first came out, and then I had friends like you need to watch it. It's totally your style. I'm like, but the gore it seems excessive, and then I start watching, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is absolutely disgusting. I like it. Let's watch some more. And I just watched the third one, and
Yeah. I've heard a lot of things about that. So, funny enough, I was talking about the Terrifier series earlier today with my wife, and kind of the same thing. It's like I've never seen any of them. All I know is that's very gory. Chris Jericho's in one of them.
Yep.
And then that's it. And so me and my wife were talking about it. She said she watched the first one. She didn't like it. And she talked about like the appeal, is just really the gore and everything. It's like, well, I don't know. I do like old like slasher films. Like I was a huge fan of like Friday the 13th growing up. I was Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream, of course. I was a fan of those movies, and then I stopped watching a lot of movies, like in general. And then I got back into horror movies with, honestly, like Hereditary. Or no, not Hereditary. What's the other one? I can't remember. It has Florence Pugh in it.
Oh, Midsommar.
Midsommar, yeah. That's the one. And I've been trying to watch Hereditary. I got like 30 minutes in. I was like, it's 3 a.m. I shouldn't be watching this right now.
Right.
So, but like I like those. Even though it's a horror movie, but it's like not. I watched the time I saw TV Glow.
Yep.
So that was pretty good.
Yep.
So
I'm a big A24 nut, by the way, too.
Okay.
Those sort of films, like if you know the A24 films, I saw the TV Glow as one of them too. But
it's really good.
I'm gonna drop like kind of like a podcast exclusive. I don't know like a lot of people that know this about me, but like as much as I love horror, kind of a sucker for romantic movies too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, romantic movies. There's one, and I'm so mad I'm forgetting the name right now, but it's coming out. Has when you mentioned Florence Pugh, she's in it, and Andrew Garfield's in it.
Oh yeah. I know exactly which one you're talking about. I can't remember the name either. So.
But like that trailer alone, okay, man enough to admit I cried, and I probably will. Like some of my favorite movies is another movie called About Time, Click, all that stuff too. So like I don't know, movies that tug the emotional heartstrings, movies that invoke emotion. Like man, I'm deep into them, and horror evokes emotion. You're just like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What's going on? So
I got you. Yeah, I've been the same way. Like anything that has an emotional like pull to it, I just get drawn into.
Yep.
Which is why, I really like Korean like shows and movies because they do such a good job of like performing that emotional piece out of it. Like I remember I did a tally and I had it on Facebook like years ago. There was a show called Vagabond on Netflix and it was a Korean show, and me and my wife watched 7 episodes, and she cried each episode, and then one episode she cried twice. And it's just that emotional pull into it, like it gets you. And that's what I love about movies. It's just how you can connect, how you can relate, even if it's something like being afraid or being like misunderstood or anything like that. It's just connecting with movies is fantastic. And then same thing with like wrestling, like they're like we are just talking off screen or off camera, like there's something in wrestling for everybody. So with that, how did you get into wrestling? What's your earliest memory of wrestling?
My earliest memory of wrestling is WrestleMania 3. I'm an old guy. WrestleMania 3, I was 3. And it's funny that I remember this because, 3, like, how the heck are you remembering things? My grandpa and my uncle absolutely just love wrestling, and they were watching it all the time. I remember WrestleMania 3 was on, And I remember like just crawling up next to my grandpa and watching it. And I feel like I was kind of hooked from there because, I mean, I would watch it anytime he had it on, which it seemed like all the time. You think wrestling is like constant now. It felt like it was pretty constant back then too. Um, but then I feel like I went to like my first show, I want to say when I was like 6 at the Omaha Civic Auditorium. Little house show, nothing special. It was a lot of fun. Um, but yeah, I think it was my grandpa and my uncle that really got me into wrestling. And I was just hooked. I mean, obviously, you know, you had the superheroes, like you had the villains, you had, you know, all these things, all these elements coming together. Like my favorite wrestlers were, you know, Jake the Snake, Ultimate Warrior. Like, you know, Hulk Hogan was like cool back then too, but I like those like very like in depth characters too. Like Jake the Snake to this day is like one of my favorite like characters of wrestling just because dude hooked you in. Ultimate Warrior, same too. Like he was an enigma. Like you didn't know about like where he came from, what he did. You just knew he was psycho, and when he hit the ring, he was gonna just like steamroll over you and then just run right back out. You know, so those were like two of my top guys. I had like all the LGN figures too, and little wrestling ring. My grandpa would just buy me stuff like crazy. But you know, my grandpa is still alive to this day. Still watches it. Like I just remember as it evolved, he just was like, ugh, like he just did not like it. But he still watched it, which is funny. Which isn't that what wrestling fans do? I'm done. I'm canceling my network subscription back then, and then like never did, and then watch next week. You know, after WrestleMania doesn't go their way, I'm done with wrestling. Monday Night Raw. All right, I'm watching. So yeah, that's how I got started in wrestling. So.
Okay. Very cool.
Well, watching it, should I say?
Sure. What is and so kind of I'm gonna jump around a little bit just because I know it all kind of connects. What did you study? Because I know you went to Full Sail.
Yep. Film.
Film.
Multiple things really. I went to Full Sail multiple times. So, film, audio production, and public relations were the three things. Unfortunately, I did not finish my public relations degree. There's just some things that just kind of happened personal life, back then. But surprisingly, I didn't like do anything like cool with Full Sail until I was in the public relations degree. And that's when I was like with NXT and all that stuff too. So, yeah, those are the three things. I love Full Sail. I'll tell anybody who wants to go to Full Sail. I mean, not sponsored, sorry guys, but like, Full Sail is a place to go, especially if you want to be, if you're very serious in the media realm, to check that out.
Gotcha. And so I know people watching are gonna want me to ask you about NXT, and I will.
Mhm.
But first, I want to ask you about like again we're gonna jump around. I want to talk about that film. What movie wise did you wanted to film? You wanted to direct?
Mhm.
You wanted to write? Like what were the goals and like what was it that made you want to be a part of that and do that?
Yeah, so kind of rewinding myself here. In high school, I was a total theater nut. I was part of every play imaginable, vice president of the drama club for 2 years. I love the acting. I loved being, a performer, but there was just something about the backstage element that I really always loved. And I met some friends, and we started making stupid films together on little mini VHS, like mini DV recorders and all that stuff. And I just became hooked to it. And then my friend, who was also like really hooked into the video round or directing films, wanted to be a director. He got a Video Maker, I think was the magazine back then, subscription from his parents for Christmas. And then I was like reading, and then Full Sail was like on an ad there. I'm like, wow, that's a cool looking film school. And this is like kind of before they were really big and really known. And I was like, oh, maybe someday. And I looked into it. It's expensive. Life, I was able to, I went to the military, all that stuff, got the GI Bill. And that's how I got to Full Sail. But I will say, wanting to go to Full Sail definitely increased when they had that partnership with the WWE.
Right.
So, when I got my GI Bill, this is before like the partnership even happened. So I knew I was going to go to Full Sail, but then that happened. I was like, okay, Full Sail is legit. Like and it's not just like WWE. They had like the NBA, and there's different other opportunities, real world opportunities that they have there. That I was like, this is where I want to go. So, I will say I was the one person in film school that was way different than anyone else. Everyone else did want to be a director and make some feature length film, which is still a dream one day. I mean, we can talk about something. I was an assistant director to one, and we could. I know the link somewhere. It's a raunchy R-rated comedy.
Oh,
It's really funny. Um, but where was I? So basically, I was the different one in film school, in that I wanted to film live events. I did not want to really be like the film director. I wanted to direct live video everywhere. So that's how I was in film school, and that was my journey too. And we can talk about it here in a minute. It's
yeah.
kind of how the path crossed into Magnum Wrestling.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah, that's super interesting. Just because in terms of uh, like that's a lot on your plate to direct like live,
hmm
and I can't even imagine the stress of it. And like when you do a great job of like running the cameras and like everything I've seen, the edits of like Magnum, but it's I don't ever think about like someone's talking to you through an earpiece, like where to change, who, like like where to go and everything. And that must be how do you deal with that stress of that?
it's funny because let's bring up like now suspended Magnum GM Joey Anderson. He did wear the headset one time, and he was like, "I trying to get rid of the voices," and that's exactly how it is. I just get used to it. Like I can handle the chaos. It's funny because in everyday life, I feel like I get more stressed, but when the headset goes on and the lights are up, at a Magnum show or any show for that matter, like I'm zoned in. Like I will pick out what somebody says over somebody else on the headset all the time too. Unfortunately, we don't do a lot of like live video directing. We did a couple of years, 2, 3 years ago with Magnum, where we were doing like the live streams and
Yep.
kind of like changed the game of that here with like multicams, live commentary. People are like, messaging like, "Wow, that's like TV quality. Like, how did that happen?" And that's just my training at Full Sail. Like
Yeah.
my high level when it comes to production, like my level of standard, but. So it's not really like directing. Yeah, sure. Shatter cameraman, and Bo, our hard cameraman up in the balcony, both incredible, like at what they do. Yeah, I'll sometimes like we have these new headsets. I'll like
Yeah.
talk to them like, hey, go over here, Bo, you cover this, or they'll talk to each other, which is also really cool. So, yeah.
I will say, just as a thing now, knowing this, one of the I don't know if it was one of the first times you did it, but it was the show before Strife versus Aldis.
Mhm.
You guys did a live thing of that, and I wanted to go to the actual show, but I think you guys sold out, and then I think I had something else going, on. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna watch it from home
Mhm.
because they're gonna do a live stream of it. So I'm watching. It was like any like on par with any other wrestling promotion that I would have seen.
Thank you.
So it was great. Honestly, I wouldn't have even known anything else. Like
Mhm.
now I've seen other wrestling, so now I've seen like little things here and there of like this is kind of weird cut, this is a weird jump. But now like remembering back to that, and I still probably have that maybe somewhere because I think that was on YouTube,
Mhm.
and so my wife probably might have that, so I will have to go back through it. But it was just fantastic.
Thank
So
you. Yeah, that was when we were breaking into that, and we were leading up to anniversary, which Strife and all this and that. Like, I was so proud of that night. Me and Strife both were just like when everything was torn down and we're sitting at the bar, we just like sat down like, holy crap, like what did we just accomplish? And it's funny because that pales in comparison to some of the things that are happening now. So like
right.
the growth is just it's insanity. So I appreciate that when it came to because that live stream, the whole production of it all, like meant a lot to us. So
And now back to the film that you assistant directed. You said?
yes, yep.
So what is that film? Where can we watch it?
I will have to send a link. I
Okay.
don't know the specific link. It is called Unemployed.
Okay.
It is a raunchy R-rated comedy that was written and directed by an old friend of mine, Jeremy Lubash, who I also ran Now This Is Wrestling with.
Okay.
And I met him through Magnum. Um, Totally hilarious film. Like he wrote it and kind of had this pipe dream of like, hey, can we do this? And I was like, yeah, let's absolutely do it. I've always wanted to do a film. And it was him and I and one of the stars of the film too. We kind of like took the helm of making it like happen. We would sit late night editing it like all the time too. Is like we filmed it. We had a brief break on it. just because I moved to Florida and all that. But like, yeah, it. There's some scenes in there. It has some cameos from some wrestlers you might know in there too. I don't know. I haven't watched it in a couple of years. I'm one of those people who, like, again, I want to grow all the time. So if I watch some of my old stuff, I'm just like, oh God, why did I do that? But I feel like I watched it like 3 years ago, maybe the last time, and I was just sitting there like, all right, it still holds up. It's pretty good. But the name of the movie, Unemployed, it's about 4 guys who, as you guessed it, are unemployed. They were living in an apartment for several years because one of the characters thinks their grandma won the lottery, paid off basically their lease for all this time. Well, it finds out the grandma was just crazy, didn't do it, and the landlord is coming to collect. So they have 30 days to come up with an exuberant amount of money before essentially they get killed by, again, a cameo of a hitman that you guys would probably appreciate. So.
I'll definitely. This is definitely something that we need to watch as marks.
Yeah.
And definitely people watching should watch just to see other work of yours outside of the wrestling thing. Now we talked about Full Sail here. So again, coming back to like what I know a lot of people are gonna want to know is your time with NXT. Like I know I remember you had posted some like you're in the background of some scenes.
Yeah.
I can't remember which ones it were, but I know you posted like 2 of them. So, how was your experience working with NXT? Like, what was like some of the highlights? You know, of what you did there.
Dream come true. So like, I mean, I was working so hard to get to that point, and I just kind of took the leap. You know, that's kind of the thing with like I think in WWE or any dream in you know that you have in your mind, like you have to go out there and you have to take the leap. You have to make sacrifices. And I picked up everything in Nebraska and moved all the way to Florida so I can actually intern and do those things. I remember like the first day I was just so nervous and I didn't know what to expect. We're there at like 7 in the morning and we're setting up. Where I mostly worked was like the promo room. So like all the promos you saw in NXT, you know, I was doing something there, whether it be like lighting assistant, whether assisting the cameraman, whether taking the footage that we just shot and ingesting it either to the live crowd, to Stamford, or both. But I just remember we're just setting up, and then when like people started arriving, like you know, you saw, you know, Triple H, Paul Levesque come in. You saw like Shawn Michaels, Michael Hayes, Scott Hall on occasion. Like you saw all these people that I like grew up watching, like walk in the halls, and I'm just like, you know, it's funny. Like I wanted to be starstruck, but I wasn't because I'm like I felt like, hey man, I'm finally in these hallowed halls. You know, yeah, sure it's the training ground and all that, but my gosh, it was so cool to just sit there and, you know, sit down and like talk with some of the wrestlers because some of them would come in and do a promo and just kind of like have conversation with you. You know, I had conversations with Bianca Belair, Johnny Gargano, EC3. Like those are like some of the memorable people. Roderick Strong. Like these are some of the people that kind of like stick out to me that just kind of stuck in the promo room and just cool down to earth people.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was a lot of hard work. I mean, I worked my tail off. It was like 7 in the morning all the way to like 2 or 3 in the morning. Like
wow.
it was a long time, long day, and obviously breaks in between and being legal and all that. But I just worked my butt off. And one of the things that really stuck out to me is, you know, everyone is on the Paul Levesque bandwagon, and I was excited when it happened too, and I was, you know, very like excited to be like working and seeing him in action, and you know 100% worth every dream that I thought. Like when we were done setting up, I would sit like ringside and watch them kind of do pre-production meetings. And there's one time he saw me, he just like comes by, he just taps me on the shoulder, he's like taking it in. I'm like, yup. I'm just sitting there like, holy moly. And then he's like, good. And then he just keeps on going with his business. And then there was like, you know how I said we're there till 2 or 3 in the morning. So was he. He was outside his bus talking to wrestlers and different people. The guy loves wrestling, breathes wrestling, and he's there for like, you know, the people that care and respect for it too. So seeing that was an inspiration. He already was like somebody like I kind of looked up to in that realm too. I mean, his beard is a lot cooler. We got the bald head now, but I try to look like him sometimes. I just need to get more fancier suits. Work on the muscles.
There you go.
But yeah, it just so many memories I can take from it. When it comes to like me being in the background, there's times where like, hey, we need extras, like production assistants, like do something, and you be on your phone here, you be on your phone there. I'm like, cool. Like I was always the one, I didn't want to do it at first, and then I'm like, oh, come on, guys, don't be shy. I'm like, all right, fine, I did it. So I kind of stepped up every single time, and it was a joke here back at home. Like, oh, there goes Logan. He left us at Magnum to be on his phone at NXT all the time. I just looked like the worker who was just back there, the production worker, just always on his phone, and chaos surrounded me. Like, I will tell a cool story. One of the coolest moments for me, the first time I was an extra. It was a scene that was involving Shayna Baszler, and there was just like a big scuffle and everything. I am terrible right now. Johnny Gargano's wife, please help me.
Candice LeRae.
Candice LeRae, thank you. There was a big scuffle between them, but there was a lot of connection in that whole skit. So I'm in the background during it. Shayna Baszler from South Dakota. Shayna Baszler I've worked with twice before going to NXT. Was at MAP. Now New Sound, like they went through all that change. Midwest All Pro Wrestling. And then she worked at Magnum.
I have seen that that video pop up for me.
Yep.
That she had a match there.
Yep. And super, super cool person. One of my former classmates, when I was in film school, he is an actual writer for WWE now.
Oh, wow.
He was a writer assistant at the time, too. He was part of the scuffle, pulling everyone apart. And then kind of my, someone I looked to as a mentor and like talked to a lot when I could, Ryan Katz. He's kind of like a creative director in that WWE realm, too. So, like, there was a lot of connection in that just I take away. I'm like, hey, the first thing I was a part of, like 3 people in my wrestling journey up to that point were in that same skit too. So it's just super cool.
Yeah.
Especially seeing like a former classmate too. Like him and I were the 2 people that are like, hey, we want to do wrestling really. And he's living the dream, and I'm very proud of him. We don't like talk a lot. I wouldn't say like we're best friends, but like we bonded when we were in school and whatnot. We were partners in a couple projects, and
Very cool.
I see him in cameos every now and then. I'm like, hey, that's my old friend.
I know that guy.
Yep.
Yeah. Very cool. So backtracking, just because I wasn't aware of like the timeline, but how do you kind of a 2-part question? How did you get involved with Magnum? And then there's something that I saw that alluded to something else. So I gotta ask, because I started watching Magnum pre-COVID, like literally February before COVID, the lockdown happened. That was my first or second show. I can't remember exactly. I think it might have been the second show. Were you a wrestler before? No,
never was a wrestler.
Okay.
No.
Okay. There's just something I probably misinterpreted, but there's something that was said. I was like, were you wrestling before? All right. So how'd you get into Magnum?
Yeah. So I've always been strictly production. I've never been in the ring. We might want to talk about that later because I'm starting to get a little pissed off lately with stuff. Anyways, I started with Magnum. It was through Full Sail when I was doing film and whatnot. Obviously, my dream was to work for the WWE, be involved in wrestling, because kind of going a little bit further back to like how I grew up with wrestling and whatnot. I'd say right around like that sweet spot, that attitude area into like the ruthless aggression. One thing WWE always had going for them, it's the production. And I'm like, man, I want to do that. Like, I don't think I could take a bump and all that. I mean, I did backyard wrestling. I got pile drived on a stop sign, and I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. So one and done. It was a lot of fun. In some weird past, like Maury Swanger, like he was running the school here. I wrestled around with some of the people he was training to. So that's kind of like before you knew them sort of thing. Story that was really cool. But I was just kind of like looking for like, what can I do locally? Is there local wrestling here? And I Googled, and the first thing that popped up was Magnum Wrestling. And they were getting ready to do a show that had Drew McIntyre, had Stevie Richards on it as well, and Trevor Murdoch. It was like a loaded show. It's called Magnum Gets Its Wings, which was like another like turning point for the Magnum brand itself. So I just reached out. I didn't know who I was talking to at first, but later, come to find out it was Jason Strife. And he just said, yeah, I already have a video guy. But, I sent him, going back again, sorry. Part of my journey, I got to have press passes at WrestleMania 30 because I was also interning at Omaha Nightlife.
Yeah.
So there's a video out there I probably have to send to where me and my buddy Elliot, we were around Access. We got to interview various wrestlers. I got to interview AJ Lee. My hand was shaking the entire time because I couldn't believe this was happening. The PR people were scolding us. This was right before CM Punk left too. It's just like, don't ask anything about CM Punk. I'm like, I don't want to lose my press pass, so I will do anything you say, sir. Super cool, people, but we got to interview Vicky Guerrero, just different fans too. It was a fun little video package that we put together. But I sent that to Strife when I reached out to him, and he was like, "Yeah, this is really cool. I already have a video guy. Let me talk to them and see what they say." About 2 days later, Jeremy Lubash, who is the video guy, and Tony Pizza Guy, if you guys watch YouTube or anything, Deep Roots and Magnum as well too. They both were running video, and they reached out to me and they're like, "Dude, that video is legit. You really want to? Are you serious?" Because there's a lot of people that say they want to help in wrestling and do all this stuff, but they're not serious. Usually it's a stepping stone to kind of put the attention on them and whatnot. So I'm pretty sure Strife at that time was like, "Oh, here comes another mark." No disregard to the term, but basically someone who's just trying to break through into the business when they're not prepared for it yet.
Sure.
But I came in and I was just blown away because to me, indie wrestling at the time, I wasn't a big watcher of it, and I was just like, "Oh, we'll just see. This is cool names, but it's probably the local talent are going to be garbage." No, absolutely not. Top to bottom, what you expect in the Magnum brand happened that night too. Mm-hmm. You had Devin Thomas versus Drew McIntyre in a main event, and those who watch Devin or who know Devin Thomas, no longer wrestling, but the dude, I have no idea why he was never signed, but absolutely talented in every way. But I was just blown away, and I shot a promo with Stevie Richards that night, and the amount of work that I put into it, I think just really drew Jason Strife more into me. It's okay, this guy's really legit, and this is really what he wants to do. And I think within 3 or 4 shows, he's just I just became part of the family. He was just starting to ask my opinion on stuff. I started doing creative stuff, and kind of his right hand man at the time just stepped away, was done. And I kind of took that role on, and we were that's where we became close. I think it was within a year and a half of being with the company, and we never looked back. I mean, there was one time, when I started Now This Is Wrestling, but other than that, or I didn't start I hopped on to Now This Is Wrestling. But it was quite the journey with him. So I did that mostly because of Full Sail. I wanted that real life experience, and I'd never dreamed in a million years that it'd become a part of my personality and a part of my life as much as it is now. So.
Sure. I do want to talk about Strife, but right before that, I do want to ask about Now, only because that was my first non-dirty wrestling show I ever went to. Mm-hmm. It was also the first show I took my nephew to because he had started watching wrestling, and so we had heard about Now, and I was like, well, let's go. We'll take it'll be me, my wife, my sister-in-law, and my nephew. We'll all go, and then he loved it. And I have this picture, and I believe I've posted it, but if not, I'll have it here. But there's this picture of him and Jay Fowler together. And then before Fowler, we found out who he really was. I have a picture of both of them together from this past year in February. Mm-hmm. And it's just a cool moment to see not only the growth of my nephew, but see Fowler and how he had changed and how he's really transformed himself over the last couple of years. So I'm just curious about what exactly was Now, and how'd you get involved and everything like that.
So Now This Is Wrestling was actually formed by Jeremy Lubash and Tony Pizza Guy. They kind of like stepped away from Magnum, just personal reasons. I won't get into that. And then they said, hey, we've done this for a while. Let's try this on our own. And they had their first and only event at the time. And that was headlined with like Bobby Lashley and Red Wing and Alan Shepard. And why am I forgetting? There's one more. It was a fatal 4-way, and it was like an intense match. Vince Russo was the owner at the time, storyline wise. It was an insane show and a big venture that they did, and I know it cost them a lot of money, and they didn't return after that like first show, which led to a beautiful like storyline later on of Now This Is Wrestling versus Magnum Wrestling, which was a big part of like 2017, 2018. Look back that saga. It's so much fun. We had so much fun with that story. But I will say like once that didn't like work out, Jeremy and Jason's Drive kind of like rekindled. We all teamed up together creatively, and we made that storyline that just killed it. We drew some of the biggest numbers at the time for Magnum with no names whatsoever, based on our anniversary show is based on strictly Now This Is Wrestling versus Magnum. And we had stories from top to bottom. We had JC Slater, lose a girlfriend. Shelly Kapowski, like he was going to propose to her, and she denied, and you find out she was having an affair with him, with Duke Cornell, and like there's just fun wrestling stuff.
Yeah.
It was just like, I hate these guys, and I hope Now This Is Wrestling goes away forever. Magnum won. I leave to Florida shortly after. I come back, probably not in the best mental state. Like personally, there's a lot of personal stuff, and get help if you guys need it. I will always say that. I made a post the other day, if you're friends with me on Facebook, that, I am that safe space for anyone out there. Because I have went through some stuff, and I want people to not go through that stuff alone like I did. But like personal stuff kind of got in the way. I was very clouded, and I kind of the one and only, and I wouldn't even say it was like the disagreement or whatever that I had with Jason's Drive, but we kind of like pulled apart for a minute, and I was like, you know what, F it, I'm gonna try, because Jeremy was talking about doing Now This Is Wrestling again. I'm like, fine, let's do it. I invested so much. We went obviously balls to the wall with those shows too. They were just phenomenal from top to bottom. But the one thing I'll say about Jason's Strife, that not a lot of people know, from the outside, there's always wrestling dirt. They hate each other. There's always drama. And yes, like there was like a period of it, but like the first person to congratulate me after the show, besides people that were physically there, was Jason Strife. He messaged me and he's like, yeah, I was looking at stuff at the show. Like, great work, duder, but next time, fucking book me. And so it's like, even though there might have been dirt, whatever might say, like, I just feel like I will say to this day, like, Jason Strife, maybe not like the closest friend that I ever had, but he's like the one who had like the most impact and one of my best friends. But I know I'm kind of like going off track with like the Now This Is Wrestling, but like that was kind of like the journey. And in a way, I was kind of like showing like Strife, like, I can do this. Like,
Right.
I'm every part of Magnum as you are too. Like, yes, it's your baby, but like, I love this baby just as much. And once Now This Is Wrestling it folded, again, personal reasons. Jeremy went his separate way, just wasn't working out. We got kicked in the mouth by COVID. Just everything was just, we were on this rise, but COVID happened. And when you're a startup business and COVID happens, ain't no way you're surviving.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of that, and then a lot of disagreement, and then kind of sitting back down with Strive shortly after, and like, hey man, I miss Magnum, I miss you, I miss a lot of people, and he welcomed me back with open arms, and that's kind of like where everything just fast tracked to the roles I'm in now and whatnot. So
very good. So perfect, like great to know the history behind it, know how like your involvement is, and of course like you've already spoken on how important Strife was to you, and what he's done and what he's done with Magnum and everything. So it's just really cool to hear, because I unfortunately my Jordan Marks never got to see Strife Out of the marks, I was the only one who got to see him wrestle a few times. And then I got to know him a little bit when he was during COVID. He had the school, and so I was part of his, I think, second or third training class, and so I got to know him from there, and then that got me more interested in going to the shows, and then I continued going, and then everything else happened, and you guys went on hiatus, and you guys came back, and then I knew some shape or way I wanted to be involved, and so just kind of we had 4.5 marks growing, so we were just like, we got to go to these shows and start talking about it. So that's what we did. Which speaking of like all that with Magnum, it's really grown, but you're in a weird spot right now. You're the sole owner. Your GM is suspended. What happens next?
There's been a lot to process. Over the top, I'm not going to take away the negativity, or I'm not going to take away the positivity that happened with Over the Top. Record numbers. See, this is me trying to be Triple H right now. Record numbers. I'm going to get my reading glasses. No, like we raised $7,000, total for, 2 charities from the Sammy Strong and the Pediatric Action Cancer Network, to be able to, give them each like $3,500. That just meant the world. So there's a lot of positive. Like I look back on that, it's just, looking back at Weekend at Strifes, at the Relevant Center earlier this year, that was like, holy crap. What are we doing right now? This is amazing. Like I feel like I'm already in WWE at home. I don't have to be on the road 24/7. Over the Top is another one of those memories. I just look at that and, it's hard for me to like sit down and process everything, until I go back and look at the footage. I'm here, there, everywhere. You guys have seen me on the show. I had the headset. I'm like, not only am I directing production, I'm, kind of a stage manager everywhere, making sure everything's going according to plan. It's not too cool when you're opening contest. You see your general manager backstage watching Donnie Pepper Cricket and Duke Cornell go at it, and whatever these cronies are of Donnie Pepper Cricket, the look in his eye when he saw that. And, credit to how small little assistant to the GM Jeremy is. He had him held back for a little bit. The second they just started laying in and just being the poor sports that they are, there's a lot of them here in Magnum right now, he just lost it. He couldn't handle it. I mean, Duke is Joey's boy. They've been up and down the road together. They are brothers through and through. I mean, the only thing missing is they don't share the same parents. But, I mean, seriously, he couldn't hold it anymore. He came out there, and I kind of walked away after Jeremy kind of like settled him down, and I was just kind of doing my thing. And then, I'm outside. I look around the corner, and I see Joey coming right down. I'm just like, nope, nope, nope. We're both trying to hold him in, and, he did his thing. It happened, and I can't have that in a general manager. Yeah. This is the thing that I have to stick to my guns. Like, if you're going to be in a position of power, you're not a competitor anymore. And that's a promise that kind of Joey made to me when we sat down and talked about offering him this role is, he did not want to be a competitor anymore. Like, he's letting those demons out of his head. He's like, I can do this business. I know this business. I'm going to be fair and balanced. And he has been up to this point. And, I mean, he is going through a lot of stress, so I feel like it was also a lot of breaking point. You guys have watched the shows.
Yep.
The guy, I'm sorry, how is he still alive? How is his heart still beating? He's had probably many heart attacks every single show. So, yeah, seeing that, I had to make an action. So, I mean, I made it on the spot. Joey understood. He was frustrated. I called him the next day. He said he understood. He doesn't hold it against me. He's going to take some time. But then let's fast forward to Alvin Falcone and Joe DeSanti, which whole nother ball game there too. Anybody who's seen it, if you were there live or if you watched the replay, I believe it's now on IWTV. If you can subscribe to that, you can see that. But if you watched it, within 2 minutes, who won that match? TJ Benson. There was a tap out. You can't deny it. But who got involved? Joe DeSanti. Always. Always, always, always. And if you watch anything Magnum, Joe DeSanti and I used to love Joe. Joe used to be one of my best friends. And during the whole, you know, fun and games that we were having with now, this is wrestling versus Magnum Wrestling, he decided to take things into his own hands. He was this happy, jovial ring announcer at the time, and he did great. Like, I mean, he was so much fun to work with. And then one night he decided to, just punt JC Slater in the balls. And everything changed that night. He's like, I'm starting a revolution and all this stuff. And he would just like, I don't know, just poison. He would talk to these like good natured people, like green kids coming into wrestling. Like he would fill this poison in their brains and, they would become these monsters before they even started. Again, if you know the history of Magnum, when I was director of operations, Joe cost me that position. I mean, yes, I made the deal with Joe, but again, shenanigans always happen, and I lost my job that night. So he's cost me a position before, so I definitely empathize where TJ was. And, credit to TJ for doing what he did, for having that confidence. I know he knew he was going to win this. I know he knew that he had this in the bag, but he also knew what was at stake. And, whatever TJ is doing nowadays, I'm hearing these rumblings about, like, Strive Forever and all that stuff. Like, you know what? Him and I will be honest, have never, like, always seen eye to eye, but we've clicked in certain ways, and I, nothing but love and respect for him. Whatever he wants to do, he's earned it at this point. So just sitting here solo as an owner, I've had it, when it comes to Joe, especially, let's go to that post-match attack too. That was completely unnecessary. Like you won, you cost a man his job. That should be enough, even for like the worst of people. You could just walk away, let him have his moment. But no, we're just gonna attack him, kick him while he's down, all this stuff, and just come on. And then, thank God for Alan Shepard, and his son, like, coming in there and kind of saving the day.
Yeah.
And to see Alvin Falcone, like, have the nerve to almost hit a kid, which, going to be honest, I'm pretty sure the kid would have beat his ass, considering that kid beat cancer. He's going to beat Falcone's ass, who is a cancer in himself. And Joe, especially.
And especially Joe.
I'm getting heated up thinking about it right now, but like I'm tired of the whole lawsuit thing, getting TJ arrested. Like this year has been nightmare after nightmare because of Joe DeSanti. Breaking news, I don't know if people are aware of this. I won't be here in November for this next show, and this is why Jeremy's in charge, as goofy as he is. I trust him. If you've looked at the 2 match announcements as of this recording, it's going to be a blockbuster night. I'm coming back in December. And I feel like I'm going to have some words with Joe. Like, next time I see him, there's going to be some words. And I'm getting sick and tired of not only him. Again, if I can, let's fast forward to the Crucible. Also people who don't like to keep their word, who like to break every rule under the sun that they can. They think, hey, there's no authority here. Logan's a pushover, all this stuff, and they decide to break a stipulation that they wrote on a contract that they were going to uphold to. Well, no authority's here, so let's break it, whatever. I take people's word, to heart. And when you break that promise, that commitment or whatever, it strikes a chord with me. And that night, I was already fed up already. And then seeing them blatantly break those rules and Fowler walk away with the title. Again, watch the match. You can argue all you want, but like Red Wing, he should have been champion that night.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But thanks to circumstances, he didn't get that opportunity. And I feel bad for the big man. I mean, guy works so hard too, and like if anybody is worthy of, I'll give credit where credit is due. Fowler is a phenomenal champion, untouchable. If anybody could have done it that night, it would have been Red Wing. And he has the deck stacked against him next month too. If you watch, they're in a triple threat. So again, Jeremy's doing his job. He's going to do great, and maybe I'll come back and there will be a new champion. Maybe I'll come back and maybe somebody did slap the taste out of Joe's mouth and I don't have to do so much when I come back. But I don't know. I'm just getting sick and tired of it. as a sole owner, I mean, you put on the back end stuff of everything I do on top of production and all that stuff. It's very stressful. So I've had this vacation that I'm going on planned for a while. I'm going to do it. I'm going to Twin Cities Con. I'm going to meet a bunch of fun people. I'm going to get my first tattoo. I feel like I'm going to come back a changed man. And I don't think people are going to really realize, because I'm tired of people thinking they could push me over. Joe, especially. There's one person I'm getting sick of. It is Joe. Joe.
Yeah.
And I'm not a competitor, but I'm going to be honest. I'm getting very close to wanting to step in that ring some way, somehow, and beat the crap out of someone. Joe DeSanti. I don't know. I'm probably thinking ahead. I'm thinking with emotions. I'm pretty sure, like, the people I have in charge in the back end are probably like, no, we can't do this. Let's not lose another owner. I tell you what, I've been working hard lately. Just getting myself into shape, and not just because, not to be in wrestling or anything like that. Just I feel good about myself. I'm tired of being like a pushover in that locker room, and it's time for me to stand up. It's time for me to make some bold decisions because I feel like I haven't before. And as an owner, you look at that after a while, like, where am I falling short? I'm seeing it now. I know the fans are getting absolutely like pissed off too at like some of these endings. I want fans to go home happy, and they are, but like, man, there's just been some things that you can't just go home and smile about. Like, people are tired of the same old, same old. It'd be one thing if Fowler was cleanly beating people.
Right.
It'd be one thing if Falcone was cleanly beating people and being cocky at the same time. Cool, it's cocky. It's not cocky if you back it up, but yeah, I'm just fed up. I know I kind of went on a rant, but it's been on my brain a lot since Over the Top. I try to have fun. We had a show the week after, and it's just not the same. There's a lot going through my head right now.
I understand completely, and as you stated on social media, and we'll state it here, we are a safe place here to get any of these bad thoughts out and just to talk things out. So, and that's what we're doing. So I appreciate you sharing with us. I know, like I said, we talked about the stress earlier. I know how hard it is. I know how hard some days are dark, but we're all here. We're all here for wrestling. We're all here for the love of the game. But I appreciate you coming on. This is we've been psyched about it for weeks now, about you coming on. So I'm glad that we had the opportunity to talk about this and talk about everything, talk about you. Any I know we'll plug Magnum. Magnum has, at the time of the recording, the show November 9th.
Yep.
November 9th. Cool, I got the date right.
Yep.
November 9th. And then we'll have I think that'll be the next show when this goes up. So, but anything else you'd like to plug? Anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah,
Brittany?
I mean, just love wrestling all around. One of the big things I kind of wanted to talk on this podcast too is I know there's always this aura of there's several promotions here in the area that we're all at each other's throats. And one of the things that I want to do as an owner is like, if everyone's having fun, sure, I've done my share of shit talking back in the days. I mean, of course, when you're competitors, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, they're not doing something a certain way, blah, blah, blah. But like, as you grow older and you kind of just see, like, this is just what people love, and they love on it in different ways. Just support all sorts of wrestling, whether it be, the PWPs out there, the MWAs, like New Sound, like all these promotions that you have a flavor for. I will tout, and I mean this with an open heart. This is not like me trying to like brag and think we're the best or whatever. I truly feel like we are one of the top elite promotions, not just because we're comparing ourselves, because we're not. It's just I know it's standard and what I put out there. So like, but at the end of the day, please enjoy every flavor. You got a smorgasbord in Omaha. Like there's so many cities and states out there that don't have wrestling. I mean, if you're in Nebraska, Iowa, dude, there's so much wrestling for you to enjoy. Like, and not only in just those states, you got Minnesota close by. You have Chicago. Like, you have some great stuff around you. So, please enjoy wrestling. Like you said, love of the game. I will be forthright and say that please support it, no matter what brand, no matter what you're doing. So, and keep on going to Magnum Wrestling. I'm loving the growth. I'm loving the buzz that we're creating, and I'm going to keep on putting every bit of effort I can to keep on raising that bar, and it's starting to get more and more difficult because you guys are amazing. So
We say it every recap show. Like, you guys raise the bar each time. It goes higher and higher, and we don't know how you guys do it, and it just speaks to what you guys do. So, but every show's been better and better. So we're excited to see what comes out. Like, we got 2 months left in the rest of the year. I'm gonna plug something of ours. We got the Marquis coming soon. So we'll see. You won the Thank You TJ award last year.
yeah,
So
yep.
We'll see who gets the Thank You TJ award this year.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what else comes out.
Can TJ win his own Thank You TJ award?
I mean, hey,
Because I mean, come on.
well, listen.
Okay, I'm not trying to put any biasness in the votes. How the system goes, but
Fair enough. But you'll just have to wait and see what happens. And so will you. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Remember, like, comment, share, subscribe. On Janine, hit up the icon. And then thanks to Theo Bob. We appreciate you. And most importantly, if that check bounces, so do you.
yes.
Okay, bye.